Welcome back. Hi, welcome back.
Wow. Still need to work on that.
I know. Anyway, who are you?
Oh, yeah. Travis.
This is Kareem.
This is
One hit.
Type Morning.
Yes. Okay, anyway. So what are we here to talk about today?
How people kind of use, like they have excuses for their bad behavior in life, and how, a lot of them use, like, the mental illness.
Yes, there you go. Why is the mental illness card the ultimate weapon? That's the best way to put it, in my opinion, because for me, in my experience, I remember growing up, mental illness is something that was very revered. Like, you didn't really talk a lot about it, but you knew of it, and you knew that it was something that people dealt with, but it was always like such misinformation on it. We always kind of like criminalized or looked down upon that person who was, exhibiting signs of mental illness or whatever. And it almost seemed like, it was a thing taken seriously, something that you really felt empathy for and sympathy for, and people that exhibited those signs. Now I just find myself almost kind of seeing this whole, younger generation, or waves of younger generations, and my generation, and, those even before me, in a sense, slightly before me. Like, what is it, Gen X? Sorry for everyone else listening right now. They probably
Before
hear
you?
me. Yeah.
Yeah, the Gen X.
Yeah. So my millennial ass is showing right now. But even then, like, it's kind of, we've seen, yes, there's been those like a whole series of things that are absolutely traumatic to the average person. I mean, right? We create this mass trauma, right? This psychosis that has been put upon a whole group of people. And with every major event that goes on, every tragedy, whatever, we get shocked and traumatized by that. And then it also instills fear into us, because life has now showed us that there's a lot more death and despair around us than we thought. Like, it's not just your white picket fence house and your day-to-day routine. Like, there's actual real conflict.
It's almost kind of like we've been taught a utopia type reality of the world, or something, where it's not necessarily the truth. Like, we weren't taught the truth that it's a master, is what you're saying.
No, we were not.
Kind of like we were all, went through, high school and whatever, and made you do all these career tests, and they said, oh, you need to do this, and this job here averages this much money, but it's like, it's and that's kind of going to the education system, which is not really,
I mean,
kind of what we're discussing today.
it's not necessarily, it's a contributor to the overall system, right? The system is what keeps the average person down, right? Now, there are circumstances where people get, lucky, or they can, give a trade-off of sorts. I mean, take that how you will. Or there's, people that actually genuinely work hard, and that's the capitalist, excuse me. Oh, that's the carbonation. There's an aspect of people that do work hard, and that are actually, they earn the things that they worked hard for. But it's as common as it is, and I completely am inspired by those types of people that can really just do the system, right? They can work the system in their favor because they actually work it, like they work hard for it.
Yeah.
I am so inspired by those people, but I just feel like it's not a sustainable.
A lot of that is, they were individuals looking at just, I don't know if you're measuring success or not, but more of like, those individuals were somewhat lucky at times also. Like, yes, the hard work plays into it, but you have to be in the right space, in the right place,
of course, with the right contacts, and branching, networking, those things like that. Like, yeah, of course, that comes along with you having to have a personality still, and still being social. You can't just be a trained dog and then expect to not still work on your humanity, right? As a person, you still have to have natural forms of expression. You can't just be someone not exposed to contact, in all forms, right? It's odd. It's odd that people just can be in one way. And I feel like I've always been, in my own sense, kind of balanced, because I felt like I didn't want to just do the whole 12 years of school, actually more than that, because I got held back twice in kindergarten and first grade, but that's because of speech impediment. Anyway, I feel like, who wants to repeat doing the same thing over and over again? You kind of want to be able to live the American dream, and maybe be creative enough to start your own business, be an entrepreneur, which of course is okay if you're successful in it and people won't necessarily look down upon you. But there's so much competitiveness in every field out there in the world, and has been since I was a teenager, growing up knowing that I would have to go to college.
Kind of works because the whole online digital technology type piece kind of complicated things more.
Right.
You know, it's easier to almost to start up a business today than where it was, and that can be a
Exactly.
very good sign.
Exactly.
As in, but there's a lot more competition out there versus where I think it was.
Think of how many people were killed, their dreams were killed, their salary killed their dreams because they were so driven in by the money, how good corporate money was, that they stuck there. And as opposed to now seeing how in reality there's a lot of competitiveness now, it all along showed that the person, when pushed to survive, I mean, not saying that it's the best lifestyle to live, but when you have to be creative, who knows how successful you can be, how advanced you can be. You know, that you let free minds think and create. And I'm not saying this has to be for everyone. It should just not be looked down upon people that, like me, chose a different path where I went to college for years. I just didn't finish any specific
But I think
majors.
that goes back to the original topic where you were you kind of felt like you were forced to go to school. Or
Yeah.
that the expectation of the world is that you have to go into higher education to be successful, and that goes back to the whole education side of not being able to. They're not looking at all the different trades. They're
Right.
saying college degree or failure. And that we're kind of in it. But I think the other piece of that is that I think our parents are not just our parents, but our teachers and things like that. They all said, you know what, Travis, you can be anything you want to be and anyone. And I think what that did was, as a society over the years, is it
Yeah.
boosted egos where people started becoming entitled. And I think this ties back into that whole mental illness thing where we use it as a card all the time because we can say, you know what, I can do this. We focus a lot of things towards ourselves. Me,
Yeah.
what do I want? What do we use that day to day, and we have to, in my mind, be cautious of that. Um, I kind of spun things around in circles here.
No, you're fine. I think for the most part, it kind of, I guess, because I probably stemmed away from the overall general topic of this episode, that
I think both of them tie in together. So
yeah, it's all contributors. It's contributors. It's multifaceted. It's not just one route that makes people feel like, where I'm trying to get to the overall premise of that people use the mental illness card as the ultimate weapon. How I tie all those, or some of the contributing factors to people kind of maybe mentally having struggles. I mean, there's many examples you can give, but I guess those are two really prevalent ones. I think that,
Well, we've talked about some of them in the past in episodes, like with,
yeah, I'm sure we've touched base,
the
but
narcissist, that,
yeah,
is out. So
I think where I'm trying to get to is not necessarily the contributing factors, but how it's now hard to differentiate if someone actually has had a buildup of traumas, or just severe trauma that has led them to just seriously have actual mental illness, versus it just being a trend or a get out of jail card or a get out of taking
Like,
accountability card.
use like you like
Yeah.
and it's such a sensitive subject because you don't want to ever question someone that's saying that because there could be some truth behind it. So like it's sensitive, and then like
But
people get offended.
when is that mental illness, whether it's there or not, and it could be legitimized or not, even if it's necessarily shown in small amounts, why does that necessarily get someone out of it? Like, it shouldn't, because I think we're all dealing with shit, and I think sometimes we have to stop.
Enough to personal accountability is that.
But that's where I was talking about. These are the people that I'm specifically referencing that exist as disguisers, hijacking something actually quite disgusting to hijack. Like, in fact, maybe they do have mental illness because they're hijacking like actual people that are struggling with severe mental illnesses, and they're trying to get help, and they're trying to actually be functional people. And then there's the crazy people that are actually just acting a fool because they want to get their way. I don't think that's necessarily mental illness. I think there's a difference between someone who can't really necessarily be cognitive versus someone who's clearly cognitive, and someone who's clearly responsive, and someone who's clearly aware to a degree when they're called out of what they're doing, only to debate and fight why they're actually mentally ill, why it's wrong. I don't think mentally ill people are going to debate and fight with you why they're mentally ill and they should be respected. I think for the most part, they're going to either be medicated, and if they're not medicated, I'm sure they're going to probably try to know a mantra or something that they have tried to accurately work hard on to walk away from the situation. And guess what? If they have not done that, and there truly is a fight and an argument, then maybe someone has to just be the mediator and see what the hell is really going on and stop it.
Do you think? Yeah, it's tough to distinguish between the two. Like,
I don't think it's that tough. I don't think it's that tough.
Why? Like,
you have to see. I think you have to see a person's body language, a person's, their overall irateness. Like, what is it? Where is it fused in? Where is it like stemming from?
but do you think that someone could just not be aware of what they're even doing.
I'm not saying a mentally ill person's gonna literally argue with
Like I'm saying,
someone
like
and
people use it as an excuse, as in, oh, I'm sorry, like I just have a lot going on, like I'm just not mentally present. Like, are they just using it as an excuse of like they're just not paying attention to
listen,
the
I
world?
I have my own traumas, right? I have my own thing, but I don't like to consider myself with my traumas, all these severe things that happen to me as necessarily mental illness. I want to say more that, and people can argue that trauma is obviously mental illness, which yeah, I guess it is, but where I don't see it as mental illness to the point where I'm not taking accountability for my actions because I'm so cognitive enough, I'm aware enough. It's like, how do you measure awareness, right? How do you measure that? Because now I think it's under the guise. I don't think as many people are as there are in the world and everyone's claiming they have mental illness, I don't think that we're all so mentally ill that we can't function to the point where we can't take accountability because then anyone can just pull that card and they have been doing that now. Maybe
That's what I'm saying.
I'm
Like, I
growing
think
up.
some people just kind of use it as in, and like, I remember like my parents, I'm like, how was your day? Oh, it wasn't good. Like, it was bad. Like people use like, it's a bad day as in, I'm just not in a mental, like, good place right now. Like, I think they're almost using it like,
They are. They
and it,
are.
then
They
it makes you
totally
almost feel
are.
more sorry for them. But I think at this point, I'm like, if someone tells me that their mind's just not in a good place, I'm just going to translate it as in, they're just having a horrible day.
It's okay to feel sorry for people that they would stoop to such a low part of humanity to take advantage of something that clearly is a sensitive topic and something that should be completely legitimized and have has should have always been legitimized, but now it's weaponized, and that's the problem. It's sad that we live in a world where everything is so sensitive and touchy, and oh, it can't be. This offends me. This offends me. This offends me. You know what? Let me put it on them. It offends me that people are so offended by every little thing in the world right now. Like I remember growing up, and I was able to laugh about the insults I got for just being of Syrian and Palestinian descent. Like I remember just hearing the wrath of people growing up, and I always kind of just like said, you know what? If I can laugh at it and I can joke with it and see that as long as it's equally shared in the world and pop culture equally, jokes around with every ethnicity or race or walk of life, then I can laugh at myself too. And I thought that taught me how to
I
actually
think that's
take it
kind
with
of, I
stride.
think it's kind of a fine line though, because it's like, it, yes, there's some things that are not sensitive or just like stupid things. We all make mistakes type thing,
Right.
like, um, but there's some things I think that are actually hurtful. And I think we have also, I think, lost sight of weighing that out. Like, when do you make fun of someone because of something, just because it's a joke and we're friends and brother, sister, whatever? And when do we just like kind of like,
When you own the power, yeah, not everyone's that strong. Not everyone is that,
yeah, but
able to work through that.
the
But
side's not as strong as maybe you are.
no, I know that. That's what I said. I have to understand that too. Like, not everyone is the same way, granted, and that's fine. But I don't think those things for me, and you know what? I'm gonna kind of just like not retract what I'm saying, but more or less try to like understand why is that when humor has made so many people come together and laugh about their own cultures and their own religions and walks of life, why is it that when we see such a mass level of bonding, which is what causes these stand-up comedy sketches or movies to even become successful or even to be made to begin with, is because there's clearly a lot of support behind it, because enough people can universally agree that it's all just entertainment to like laugh at humanity as a whole. Why is it there's some rotten apples that almost make it seem like they're so it almost makes me feel like they're narcissistic and they're weaponized to the idea of being a victim. They love it. It's almost like their card of getting attention. So in a way, yes, it all still could technically be mental illness worthy of.
I guess that's if they come on the defensive of what you're making fun of them over, or are on that side. But I think how I'm seeing and how I'm listening, and this could be completely not what you're referring to,
Okay.
but I'm seeing like I was kind of like in raised as in like you shouldn't make fun of people. Like it brings people down. It's those type of things. It's not necessarily like you own your mistakes internally. Like, yes,
Yeah.
I have my problems. I own my problems and I fix them and I laugh internally. But it shouldn't be, I don't think you should ever make anyone turn into not a mockery, but joke at someone and like you think it's okay and you think that person should think it's okay. But if they're not comfortable with it, I don't think that's necessarily, like right in my mind to joke after something. It's,
No, of
and I don't know if I
course.
took it a different direction than where you were, but that's
No,
kind
of
of where my
course.
mind
I
was
think
headed.
if a comedian like reads the room, I think they're kind of right. They're like
A
leading.
comedian's different because those individuals are going there. So if the comedian decides to make fun of something
But that's
at
what
a
we're seeing.
comedy
But
show,
that's what we're seeing. Have you not seen
okay, now
how
you're right.
there's a bunch of like reels or whatever Instagram calls it and TikToks that show like comedians now basically like saying what is going on? We can't even like have a sketch without people literally walking off or yelling at us. Like you're at a comedy show. What are you talking? Like what are you doing here then?
But it's almost kind of like in my
Why do you
mind,
think
like,
a lot of these movies are not even run on TV anymore? There's a lot of movies that would never fly today because they're considered cultural appropriation or racially charged or whatever have you. But it's like that's what is supposed to take the power away from insecurities because we're seeing that everyone is going
I
through
think
that.
there is what you're seeing there is that the government has more censorship than what we actually know about, and some of that where
Because they're weaponizing victimhood.
why I'm saying that is that streaming services don't have to necessarily abide by what is publicly broadcast because people subscribe to Netflix. They're signing up for it so they don't have to, and that's where you see things going off.
Of course, where now everyone's kind of having their own choice to.
But when you watch primetime television, you never saw any of that so-called vulgar or.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
It's more censored though because the government can, like the FCC's.
But it doesn't matter if it's more censored now. We have to look at the bigger picture here. Since when were we a nation of a bunch of weenies? Like when were we a nation of a bunch of people that were feeling bad for themselves and we're constantly telling everyone, "I'm mentally ill. I'm having a bad day. Don't talk to me. Oh my god!" Like
because those are the buzzwords going on. And people with pain are roped up into social media, and that's what it tells them.
It's like a trend. It's a trend to just be like, let me put a confessional on Instagram of all my emotions, all the things I struggled with, and then it's always someone with watery eyes or someone looking off into the distance. And you know what?
Because all they're
guess
doing
what?
Is taking attention.
And guess what? And the reason why I'm speaking of this is because I may have been probably doing the same thing. Like I actually know I was probably doing the same thing because I remember I would feel like this almost artistic ego where it's like, oh, Instagram is promoting these beautiful filters and these filters all over you make you feel more sophisticated because you went from MySpace to Facebook to now Instagram and you have these amazing filters.
You a false reality back to how we were first talking about that with the education world, and past generations has basically said this is if you work hard, do all this, you can create this image for yourself. But social media is
it's the illusion, which we all know now. It's I think those buzzwords as well has kind of been trendy as well to talk about how like, oh, you're anti-social media, oh, like I think social media is a joke, but I'm going to still use it to kind of promote myself. But it's like
I still want to stay connected with the friends and family. I'm like, no.
But at the same time, it's like that's the hustle in some people, the hustle in that everyone is kind of trying to climb this ladder of success in any means necessary. And social media is that tool to do so, right? It's that platform to do so. But at the same time, like it gets so convoluted and straight away from what humans are supposed to be. And that's
because we follow all these random accounts and it's catered to us of lavish vacations that people are going on and things like that. And then people are like, why can't I do that? And then
we just like became like these cattle essentially, right? That saw another cow get like a mountain of hay forever. And the other cows are like, wait, what the fuck? How did he get all that hay? And the other cows are like,
the other cows are like, move.
No, the other cows are like pissed off and they're like, yeah, let's fuck this motherfucker up. Or they get depressed and they don't eat grass and they all starve themselves, or they overeat grass and then they're not healthy. And then now next thing you know, they're all dead. And this one person or committed suicide and the one person had all the hay actually realized that it wasn't his actual hay. It was just far in the distance. And it was hay that got delivered and his little stack was right above it because it's all an illusion. It's not real.
Do you have cow trauma in the past?
No, I'm saying that I feel like humans are like cattle. Like we all kind of had a simple job, which is just to like live and just
we are kind of like in
exist
a mentality where the people above us, the people with more power, the people with more money, they kind of create the life that we should so-called live, and they come follow us, and we kind of do.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think humans are always meant to be free-spirited people, but we've become cattle, right? That see the illusion, and we're like if we're gonna.
I think we've become this way. I think we've always been this way.
I know, but I think
because same thing back to like early.
I think there was a rebellious nature in people all the time. I think
I'm saying Native Americans and everything else. We always followed something or someone as saying you must like just organizational like
No, there was a bunch of tribes that killed each other. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but that's because one tribe leader told the other tribe leader that.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like one leader can lead whether it's 100 or 200 or even
But I'm
30.
saying
Like
the
it
people
doesn't.
underneath are still following this herd
I
mentality.
mean, yes,
Yes.
yes and no. Yes, in the sense that yeah, maybe on a smaller scale, but I don't think. I don't think we're kind of comparing different things. I'm trying to talk about more how people as a whole, like this many people on a wide scale like this, should never be controlled by a small amount of people that essentially dictates how we're able to be fed
But the people
knowledge.
underneath are following always the people on top. So, like, if you look back in early days when the world was formed, those early, there's always been
But why? But
hierarchy of
why should one?
people.
Why should one small group of people have so much power over that many people? I don't.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that we've been like this since man has been
So
born.
obviously, as the population has gotten bigger in the world, I guess it's just increased, which is like.
And I think what it
crazy to
is
think
is
about.
as the world advances, the elite, the government, those get that technology first. They make it a norm. They make it a status. They make people want it, and then the like lower levels
But
start
isn't that
looking at it.
scary to think that like okay, we're always taught humans are like free and wildly
We're not.
spirited, and we have creative imaginations and we can do whatever we put our mind to. But if you think about it, are we just kept in this bubble, like this, like this zone?
There's still rules. There's still law. There's still that. So essentially, that is the bubble.
The more you know. No, it's so like profound to think that we are in a sense really in an enforced simulation whether we believe it or not. It is like a literal simulation because everything is kind of like a test, right? Everything is test and trial and tribulation, like anything the government tests on their people. Oh, Mars' cat food dispensed anyways. So all the squirrel all the things that we're doing is actually so crafted to some degree, right? There's a wide variety of TVs out there. There's a wide variety of this. Everything is curated and crafted for our consumption. Whether there's 100 different combinations, thousands of different combinations, millions of different combinations of what a person will take that's put out there for us to consume, it's still regulated by a higher power.
Correct.
That's
There's standards.
actually like not an entity of God or a God or anything like that.
The beginning of like the bubble is just standards, like in inches an inch. Like who the hell decided what the inch was? Like it's controlled down to everything you look at. So it's always been
Wild.
around.
Weird.
Is what I'm like.
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing today is it's different than where it was 20 years ago because of social media.
Yeah.
Is influencing maybe at a faster rate versus 20 years ago,
Or just at a more exposed rate.
or that too, because
Yeah.
you can get information out very, very quickly today.
I
Nothing
know, it's
goes
wild.
by. Nothing can be like covered up almost because information is free so freely. But it's like what I'm saying is it's just presented different. It's always been here.
Look, I feel like we got all this like freedom to be expressive and put all this information out there of us, only for it to kind of be like still exposed information, but now your voices are slightly getting more and more chokehold.
But
Chokeholds.
kind of need this order
No,
in this bubble
No.
because then you have chaos, and chaos in theory does never work.
I don't care who's to contain the chaos if the chaos is still
Chaos,
part of.
chaos.
No, I'm not talking about chaos like violence or danger. I'm talking about chaos and more like let humans be creative. Let the kids draw on the walls. Let the adults
That way.
talk. Let the adults talk. Let them debate. Let them learn. Let them have conversations. Let them have wild conversations. Let them be free. Let them have free speech. Let them be free spirited in that sense. You at least have to have people have some type of freedom within themselves.
And then at the same time, what they do say and what they do, if there is something wrong, then they have to be held to that.
There you go. And I'd rather hold someone accountable than have someone not like
not in a good mental state as a card back.
Yeah, I'd rather someone be held accountable by free speech than someone who, is silenced, and then you create people that have just fucking hatred to the point where it manifests into physical violence, because we've seen that where there's all these campaigns to stop this, stop that, because when you actually do that, you campaign for a whole ethnicity to be actually highlighted as, oh, this is what we should be mad at. This is the person we should be mad at. This is the person we should blame. It's almost as if, I don't know, we're keeping racism on life support in this country because we constantly talk about how different we all are from each other, how everyone needs to be seen and heard in different ways, how these people, are targeted this way and this person's not targeted this way. It's like everything is so like weaponized.
And then there's only two sides of the puzzle, and I think that's no. I'm saying
No, I know.
presented to us as there's only two sides of the puzzle.
Right.
As in, it's yes or no, regardless of what the issue is. It's so polar, and they're trying to force like voters choose this side or this side. Like there's no
Because they're trying to capitalize off the people that are kept
goes
low
back to
for
the
votes.
control
For votes,
you know?
they want to make the people feel heard that are the discriminated ones, the ones that have nothing, the ones that are living off the government, the ones that need government assistance, the ones that take advantage of government people. Regardless, these people are advocating for you under the guise that they care for you because they feel as though as long as they keep you low and they can keep the mass general population low, you're going to listen to whoever is going to sound like they're selling you the best possible narrative for you.
Mhm.
And if other people say, no, get off your ass and work, and it actually sounds harder for you to acknowledge that dynamic, and you rather have the comfortable life that you're living because you're still capable, but you've been conditioned to feel bad for yourself and never persevere past your low standards of life and living, you're going to now give the people that are keeping you down all the power, and you'll always be kept down for generations and generations. And maybe a lucky few will get out and move past that conditioning and want to have success for themselves. But there's too many of those people feeling bad for themselves, and they're going to be kept low. And I'm one of those people that kept myself low for a long
We've all been
time.
in that situation at times, whether it's sexual orientation or race or ethnicity or anything like that. We've all kind of felt bad or not liked something about ourselves, and I think the important piece of it is that you just have to own it. You have to say this is who I am, and just kind of not use it as an excuse, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, we've for the most part, I hope for the most part, because I think as important as much as it sucks to go through trauma or to go through anything that sucks, right? You still need it. You need the contrast to know what the other side means and to
Mhm.
validate the other side things. I mean, everyone should experience some type of shit, right? And hopefully that shit makes them think, oh shit, I'm gonna work, you know, tirelessly and as long as it takes to be the best version of myself and to not make excuses because it's the easy way out, because the easy way out you think is easy, but it's going to actually be a really cold and hard life for you when you realize that that mental illness is going to be an actual convinced mental illness. You're going to validate that mental illness and actually let it dictate you and take over you.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that this is a F you to people that are medicated that need it. I completely understand the circumstances of which people need it. And I am no one to,
Those are different,
and I'm no one to truly be a judge at the end of the day. I think my opinions come with passion because I think I want to inspire people to ask themselves in their day to day life, am I maybe making my life worse for myself? Am I sabotaging myself? Reference one of the earlier episodes. Or am I sabotaging myself? Am I making things worse for myself? Am I being the best version of myself? Am I proud of myself? Will I be proud of myself down the road? Will I look back at this and think I could have done more?
Yeah.
Just ask yourself those questions and try to make some bit of a difference. And as long as you're able to find the peace in people, you are able to hopefully articulate and navigate yourself and the other person in a conversation. You can make anything a free speech, something notable and beautiful, because it's still what is freedom within the person, right?
Yeah.
As much
And I
freedom
think
as we
the
can
only
have.
other piece of that is that, also listen to the other side as well, as just as much as in,
Of course. And that's what free speech is about.
Yep. But a lot of people forget about that. That we think of free speech as in, yes, I can speak, but are we also listening? And I think that's a part of free speech that people often forget about.
Yeah.
We don't take the time of our day. We say me, 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 me. It's my issue, my issue, my issue. But are we listening to the opposite side and what their issues are? Because they're just as equally important almost.
Of course, right. And I think I'd rather probably almost hear my opposer or the person that I'm quote unquote offended by or being attacked by or whatever it is.
Because it challenges yourself.
Yeah.
Hear something different.
Yeah.
And when you get challenged, there's two outcomes here. The first outcome is it reaffirms what you believe in if
Yeah.
you're challenged.
Yeah.
Or you might be convinced as in, you know what, I might be slightly wrong. And that's okay as well. And that's a part of growth, I think.
But listening without automatically debating in your head and coming up with a response is also something that I urge people to just be a little bit more mindful that when you do things like that, you may not actually be listening and getting the full point and the full context of what they're saying. You might actually in your own head be so argumentative and be so ready to come at that person that you're actually not really listening. You're looking more so to just win. It comes to ego. Yeah. So try not to debate. I guess to make it easy, I think that was a long-winded answer. To make it really clear, just don't have an ego when you're debating. Actually, just be free. Be a free fucking spirit. Be as free as possible when you're letting someone talk to you. And guess what? Just like clay, every single time you have a conversation with someone, build yourself back up. And if you have a consistent piece of art every single time, well, guess what? You know the kind of artist you are, you know?
Sure.
And I guess that's
a nice little. We talked a lot of things today.
I know. I feel like this one was just like creative thoughts in my head were coming as I was thinking about my own problems, right? And things I needed to work on in my life. That it made me feel like, why don't I talk about like almost like why I feel like being a victim and like mental illness and all the things that I feel like sometimes are almost stains on my clothes and I guess like my own head. That why is it that I feel like it stops me or it makes me feel like I almost need to preface that I am that before I feel like I can't do things to myself. Like I'm like, oh, you want to do that, but you can't because you're technically like not well in the head. It's like, no, bitch, get the fuck up and do it. Like maybe it's just I needed to hear it, anyway.
Yeah, sometimes we just have to extract what's in our own head, and that's some of this also is to help others and also self-discovery, I think, for ourselves. So
Yeah.
And I think this is a excellent way to close episode.
Yeah, there's a little self-confession there.
This is actually episode number 25, so it's kind of a big milestone for us.
Oh, I didn't even keep track, to be honest.
And so I think this is a nice little, wrap up for today's episode. And we'll see you soon.
Oh, okay. Bye.
Bye.